What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are going to be jumping back on for the 9 millionth video with the Evo 8 over here. As the title suggests, we do have a couple things we're doing today. Of one, installing the thermostat housing back into the motor, and two, trying to replace some of these old crusty vacuum lines with some brand new silicone vacuum lines. So why don't we jump over here and I'll show you what I got in the mail. So I know in the last video, if you do want to see it, I will link it somewhere right up here. Obviously we had a little bit of problems with the thermostat housing and trying to extract the bolt, and it did break, but I will say I am actually maybe even just a little bit happy that I did break it, because let's check out the new one. So here she is, the old crusty thermostat housing. As we can see, if you didn't see the last video, I obviously did break where the bolt goes through to mount the elbow to the housing itself. So I did go ahead, jumped on STM Tuned. We did get this guy. Look how fresh it looks. Brand new, OEM. Honestly, no matter how hard I would have tried to clean the old one, there's just absolutely zero chance that it would have ever looked like that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and start by trying to swap over the sensors and everything from the old one onto the new one. So let's jump on that. Alright, so this little guy right here is giving me some trouble. There's two coolant temperature sensors on here. The small one that I already took off, which was super easy, it goes to the dash in the car to give you coolant temp, and then this guy right here is what sends the information to the ECU. For some reason, this guy is giving me tons of trouble. So I'm probably going to go ahead and just do this off camera, I guess, because it's kind of boring sitting here watching me struggle with this one sensor. Pretty easy otherwise. For the small guy, I ended up using a 12 millimeter. And then this guy right here would be like a 20 millimeter, but I don't have a 20 millimeter, so I ended up using a 3/4 inch, which is fitting fine. Just obviously it's not doing so well coming off. I did try to hit it with some heat, but again, it is a sensor, so I don't really want to be hitting it with too much heat. I hit it with penetrant, which also doesn't seem to really be working. So I think my struggle here is that trying to hold this piece down hard enough to be able to get the torque to break that free is my issue. So I'm going to go ahead again, do this off camera and see if we can get this out without breaking even more of the thermostat housing, or possibly the sensor. Okay, so I do have an idea. We're going to see if it works. Hopefully it does. I was having trouble with the wrench, obviously, because you couldn't get like enough torque on it. So I did remember I did have my impact sockets, so I threw a 3/4 inch impact socket on here, which is pretty deep, so it should clear the sensor. And then I just got my trusty old jack handle to be able to try to get a little bit more torque on it, and we will see if it works. Alright, so it does seem like it's working. I'm telling you, man, every single time I can't get a bolt out, this jack handle, it's what does it. It really puts in the work. Okay, and just like that, got these swapped over. Try to get this guy cleaned up a little bit so the sensor will read a little bit better. Got that guy installed. Wasn't honestly too hard, just a little bit annoying with that guy in the back. So going forward, we have our brand new OEM gasket for the housing to the head. And then we got these guys right here. I got this off STM. It is just brand new versions of the bolts you need to bolt this to the head. But on that note, we're going to jump over on the car and start trying to install this. So this right here is where it bolts on. As you can see, the mating surface for where the housing actually bolts on where the gasket sits is looking just a little bit dirty. So I do have this stuffed up with some paper towel. I'm going to go ahead, use like 1,000 grit sandpaper and just kind of like wet sand this down. Obviously you don't want to take too much material off, but you do want to get it so it doesn't have any of this like old gasket or anything left on it. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll get this thing bolted in. Okay, so I am ready to go ahead and throw the thermostat housing on. I did get this surface just kind of cleaned up, very, very gently wet sanded it with, I think it was actually 800 grit sandpaper. But tip for anyone who is doing this, in order to install this thermostat housing, this guy cannot be here. There's a bolt behind here that you need to get to. So I'm gonna go ahead, undo, it's the nut right here on the stud for the intake manifold, and then the bolt that holds in this guy right here for the like a motor jack point. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that off and be able to get this guy on. Okay, so I am ready to go ahead and throw that thermostat housing on. One thing that I do want to point out that I'm not really 100% sure about, maybe if there's anybody out there that has Evos, maybe my homie Evo lad, if he knows what I'm talking about. Down in here, where we do have where it bolts on, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 points that it bolts at. But then for some reason, right here, there's also like a threaded hole for what you would imagine would be a bolt in there. But there is no bolt in the kit that comes from STM, and I did go back and watch the video of me taking off the thermostat housing, and it was there, but there's no bolt in it. So I don't really know what it is. If you guys do know, leave a comment down below and let me know why that's there, because I'm kind of curious, because I looked on even ChatGPT and it didn't say anything. It didn't really seem to know. So if you know, leave it down there. So there is really only one way this goes on. Where is it? Like that. So you can see the holes, they line up. So again, like right there, there's the bolt hole. I have no idea why it's there, but I'm just gonna send it without it, because it seemed fine before. So I'm just gonna go ahead, get these bolts on. I'll probably use the longer ones just to kind of hold it in place, and then I can go ahead and torque them down. The torque spec on the bolts for the housing itself is gonna be 18 foot-pounds, which isn't really that much, but I'm using my torque wrench anyway, just because I like to be thorough. And so let's go. I'll probably go ahead and throw it on a time lapse for this, and then I'll show you the torque sequence after. Now that that is all set, all these bolts are kind of just like, I guess, finger tight. Obviously I used a ratchet, but I did not torque them down at all. They're just set in there. I did make sure that when I was going through, I kept kind of pulling the housing back a little bit just to make sure each bolt was actually going through the hole in the gasket and it wasn't like pinching the gasket or forcing it through within the threads with it or anything. So all those are set just nicely. I am gonna go ahead and again torque it to 18 foot-pounds. What I did see on, I guess it would be like a, I don't know, Google's AI, when you Google it, it came up saying that it's 18 foot-pounds for the torque spec, but it's suggested to start from the center and work your way out. So I'll probably start with this guy right here, then go over here, here, and then to the back. Just doing 18 foot-pounds for each, so it should be pretty easy. Okay, had to take the hoodie off. It's getting a little too hot in here. So there is something that I ran into that I kind of didn't remember. It wasn't really that big of a deal, but just something to know if you are doing it. It'll make it a little bit easier and save you a little bit of time. I'll show you that right now. So this bracket over here, it's just a bracket that holds the wiring harness for the injectors and other random stuff for the intake manifold. It clips in right here, but I don't know how I didn't realize before. I was trying to put this thing on after I put all these in. This guy actually goes through it, and that's what bolts it in place. And then there's the two other points over here. So I did just have to go back through and take out this bolt for this bracket here for the engine hoist mount, and then this guy right here, it's the nut and lock washer on the stud for the intake manifold. So just something to know. I can't really put a thermostat in yet and bolt this thing down because obviously one of the bolts for this was broken, as you saw in the last episode. And so I couldn't, for the life of me, I could not find replacement bolts for these three bolts here on the thermostat elbow that bolts to the housing. You can find these all day. Even, honestly, even ChatGPT was like, dude, I think this is what you need, but like you cannot find it. The only thing I could find for replacement bolts for those three are on JD Customs. It's a titanium company. They do like nuts and bolts and dress up kits. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of them. But I was trying to not go that route just because like I had spent $15 on the three bolts that I need, and then it's like $12 on shipping. So they should be here today in the mail, but I wasn't able to get them yet. So I did just bolt it down very loosely with one that I do have. But with that, that's finally all set. And so we can now jump on the silicone hoses. So this is what we're working with here. I did get all of this off STM. This is silicone vacuum hose. You can obviously buy rubber vacuum hose from like a AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts. This is just a little bit tougher, a little more durable, and it doesn't degrade quite as quickly as rubber. You can get this off STM. They sell it by the foot. I think it was like $4 per foot for all the different lines. So I actually ended up getting 10 feet of 4mm line, which is this guy right here, the smallest. Apparently that's what most of the vacuum line on this car is. Then I also did get some 8mm and then some 10mm for the brake booster line. It's important to remember that for this application, this hose is a vacuum line, so it's meant to not collapse under suction, whereas like fuel line is not necessarily meant to not collapse under suction, but it's meant to like stay strong under pressure, because fuel has more pressure than vacuum. So don't fall into the trap of like buying like fuel line and using that for your vacuum hoses, because they're meant to be strong pushing outward on the hose, whereas this is meant to be strong sucking in on the hose. Just a little fun fact. But I'm gonna go ahead, try to throw this stuff on that car over there. Okay, it is one day in the future and we are back. Did finally get the bolts for the thermostat housing in the mail, so probably I'm going to go ahead and try to get those thrown on. I did get a brand new OEM thermostat from Mitsubishi for the Evo, so I'll get that installed, bolt that elbow down, and then we can continue on with going forward with the vacuum lines. So let's jump on that now. So here's the thermostat. That is the part number if you need it. Honestly, I know most people can just go right on STM and they'll find it, no problem. So we're gonna go ahead, take that one bolt out, and then we are gonna finally be able to throw these guys in. So these are the JD Customs titanium bolts that I got for the thermostat housing. I just got it in bare titanium because I have no other titanium in the engine bay, so figured just go with the standard like silver color. So let's go ahead and do that. I will say it is kind of a bummer having this brand new thermostat housing looking so beautiful, and then we got this guy. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's, you know, kind of ugly. So I did jump on like a little off-camera side quest. I did go ahead and try to clean this guy up. It was looking pretty oxidized, but honestly it looks a lot better now. It's not perfect, but I did get rid of a lot of the oxidized aluminum. Apparently aluminum just oxidizes because it comes in contact with air, and it oxidizes to protect the real aluminum underneath. So I didn't know that, but I just went through and used a 1 part vinegar, 2 part water solution, scrubbed it, used a wire wheel, and just made sure that I took care to not go like where the welds are on here. And it came out looking pretty nice. So let's get it in with the new thermostat. So here you can see the brand new OEM thermostat, and then the old one that was in the car, which obviously has seen better days. So glad to get this new one in. Gonna go ahead, seat this guy on nice and easy right in here. Oh, looks so nice, everything brand new. So this guy doesn't get a gasket. Some people do put gasket maker, but honestly the gasket is the ring on the thermostat itself, so I'm not gonna do the gasket maker just because it's one more thing to have to clean up. So go ahead, throw this on. I'm gonna look up the torque specs on what the bolts should be here. Originally it is 10mm bolts, but what they send from JD Customs is actually gonna go ahead and be an Allen key. So let me go ahead and find the torque spec and we'll jump right on this. Okay, so to tighten these down, specifically if you do have the JD Customs kit, originally from factory, there's 2 different size bolts. One is a little bit shorter than the rest. With these guys, they're gonna all be the same length. So in the case of OEM bolts, there are gonna actually be 2 different torque specs. With these ones, we're gonna go with just the 1 torque spec, which is like 9.6 foot-pounds plus 1.5. So I'm just gonna do 11. So I'm gonna put the washers down, get these guys in, get a torque down. I am gonna eventually go back, throw some anti-seize on here, because apparently titanium can seize very easily. So I don't have any anti-seize on me now. I'm just gonna get these installed just to get it on the car, and then I will go grab some and off camera go back and put anti-seize on these bolts. So let's get them in. Don't know if I said it. This is an H5 hex head, just in case anyone needs it. Go ahead and get all these started just by hand. Just make sure all the threads are good. Okay, now that these are all in, I'm gonna go ahead and torque these down to 11 foot-pounds. The only thing is I don't have like an H5 socket, so I had to use this guy into like one of the ones that accepts like a bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and like not torque them all down completely right away. I wanna try to make sure I get them all seated kinda at the same level of torque. And I know it might be a little bit overkill, to be honest. I'm just a little crazy when it comes to torquing things down. So I am gonna have to go ahead and get an attachment though to reach into this back one. Go ahead, stick that guy in, and then I'll put the rest down on it. That's probably the one that I'll start with for the actual 11 foot-pounds. You know, it was like only a week ago I realized there's a knurled part on these things so that you can use your finger to turn it. I've had these for like 6 years. Alright, 11, 11, 11. And that's it. Okay, so it does appear that I did get not the correct size hose. This right here is the smallest one I have. It's 4mm hose. I got a bunch of it. A 4mm hose would fit for something like here, here. But these guys right here are actually going to be 5mm hose, so it won't be able to work. This guy right here, I believe, is 3, so I do need to order some 5 and 3s. However, I still will be able to replace, I believe, like this type of line, and then this guy right here for the brake booster. I do have the right size for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to replace what I can, and then I guess I'll have to pick up vacuum lines in another video. Okay, so all I am going to do is go ahead, just remove the old vacuum lines, take the new line that I have bought, measure it up, and then I'll just use my hose clamps to be able to cut it. Oh, and it's like almost too small. There we go. So that's going to go right there and replace the line that was there. So with that first one done, I'm going to go ahead, throw it on a time lapse, and just go through and try to replace what I can. Alright, sorry about that super long time lapse. There's unfortunately just no real fun way to show you guys replacing vacuum lines. So to go ahead, get what I could done. I think that the amount of hose that I have, I think it was 4mm, I think I'll be able to use that more on the turbo setup and for the wastegate and stuff, so at least it won't go to waste, but I will have to order some smaller lines, and I can show you why. These little guys right here, they're just too small. These guys, they're just too big, and it's kind of like dumb to have all this brand new, really nice looking line, and then have these old, crappy looking lines right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that stuff on order, and hopefully be able to get that in soon. But like I said, I'll probably be able to reuse, like on these guys, for the boost controller and stuff. But honestly, with that, I am probably going to end this video here. I think I did get a decent amount done for a little bit of time that I do have to be able to work on the car. Obviously, it's all really small stuff, but it's all tiny steps in one big direction. So if you did want to see more Evo videos, I will link the playlist up here on the off screen. But if you guys like the content, make sure you go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. And honestly, please do, if you know on that thermostat housing why there's a threaded hole in where the thermostat housing bolts on, please let me know. I'm just curious. Like I said, I couldn't really find anything about it, but if you're an Evo guy and you know, let me know. But until the next one, I guess that's gonna be it. So peace out and keep wrenching, guys.